Hi, Paul Neale at Pen Productions. I had a student recently ask me about doing scrolls, and I thought I'd do a quick tutorial about it. So I have just two. They're just exactly the same thing. I just kind of laid them out differently. Really simple, and of course, like most of what I do, it's all procedural. So no modeling needed to be able to pull this off. So let's get started, and I'll throw this together. So we're going to need two things. We're going to need our map, and that's literally just going to be a plane. Okay, so I'm just going to drop a plane out here, however big I want it, however big the map is. I've got a bunch of segments in it. We'll just start with some nice square ones here, and we can adjust because we're not collapsing anything, so we can up and down res this as at will. So that's the beauty of this, picking the width and everything else. Material looks something like this. Let's build that up ourselves. We're going to need a front and back because, if you look, we've got a different material on the back of the map that obviously on the front. So we're going to need a two-sided material to start with. So that's one of these. So materials general, we're going to go with a double-sided. Okay. And we've got these physical materials in here. So instead of trying to move all this stuff around, all you got to do is grab the root one, hold down Control and Alt, and it'll move both. I'm going to select them all. I'm going to hit H on the keyboard just to collapse them because I don't need all that crap. Don't need to see all those input outputs. Hit C to organize basically from the root on down. Okay, so if you use L, it'll do everything. If you use C, it will do just the one you've got selected. So I've got two materials here now, front and back, and so we're going to need a couple of textures. I'm going to just right click, and we're going to go base color map, and click OSL. We're going to use a bitmap lookup. And let's go in and grab, I should probably have moved these down into the project folder. That would have made more sense, but I'm going to go and drop this one in. So this is going to be the color map. Okay, so again, I'm just going to go in and hit H just to collapse that down because we don't need anything else. We also want to be able to clip this out. So we need this to look clipped out. Just opened up, double clicked on the image, and I'm going to say type preview type box so that we're seeing the box here in our preview as we're kind of working. So this is a PNG map. It's got an alpha in it. So if I hold down over here, I can go and grab alpha, and we want to drop that into the cutout. So I'm going to put it into the cutout, and it's going to cut out those edges of our map and make sure that we're not seeing those. Now that same cutout is going to have to go into our base one, even though it's going to have a different map in here. So I'm going to add it a little differently. I'm just going to go OSL bitmap lookup again, and I'm going to go get, I think that's my background. Gee, it would have been nice if I actually named things correctly, right? Color output, that's going to go into my base color. And then the same alpha is going to get dropped into here into the cutout so that we've got the same cutout on both of them. So if we take a look at this one then, and again, we're going to say preview type box, you'll see that it's got this old map kind of look. Now, I also happen to know that if we look at the maps, and I guess I got to apply them. So this is our double-sided. Just go and double drop it on there. I can see that the map is sideways here. It needs to be, so I could change the way I'm putting the map here, but the easiest way, just again to sort of illustrate things, maps OSL. UV transform, again, I'm just going to collapse it with H. I'm going to take the output of that into UV and the output of that into UV. And I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees right here. So I can just, control them both at the same time because I know that for a fact that both of them were around the wrong direction. So that is, kind of the majority of the map, the material at this point. We could do some other work. So you could, see how shiny it is. We don't want that. It's an old map. So in both of these, I'm going to take the roughness and crank that value up to a value of 1 so that we have the maps now not shiny, and you can see that it's getting stretched, and we could do bitmap fits, or I could just kind of go and guess like that. So now what we want to do is we want to create a helix to wrap this around because it's got to wrap around. So bend modifier won't do it. So I'm going to press X and type in helix. And I'm just going to drag out a helix. And when you drag it up, it's going to give you height, and then it's going to give you your secondary um, radius. Okay, so I really don't want it to have any height. I want it to be flat, and I want the first radius to effectively start at 0, so it's down at the middle, and then as many turns or counterclockwise or clockwise, depending on which way I want to wrap it. Um, with the plane now, I'm going to go in and add a path deform, not the WSM, just path deform. Pick my path, and it's going to drop it on it. And you're going to say, well, that doesn't look right. Well, we need to determine what axis it's going to go around, and it's going to, if we turn that off, take a look at the local axis on here. We want to wrap it along the X. So that is going to be wrapped along the X. Now, the other thing is the pivot of the plane is in the middle. So it's starting the middle at the beginning of the path. So really, we need to make sure that it's 50% along the path. Okay, so it's going to remain at 50% because the pivot is at that point. Now, the other thing we want to do here is we want to do an auto stretch and make sure it goes all the way around um, the entire thing. So it's wrapping around all the way. Now, one of the things here too is we're also looking at the back of the map. So we could do a couple things. You could invert normals on the plane with a normal modifier, or I could just rotate it 180 degrees here and flip it over this way so it's up and over the other direction. So that would work as well. So something you can see here that I just noticed, which is a bit of an oddity, but my alpha is working here and my alpha is not working here in the viewport. You can see it's not. I think it's my video card, but what's really strange is that to make it work, I actually took the alpha and I used an invert color node and then another invert color node to bring it back the right way around. And the original material works perfectly fine. The new one doesn't work fine unless I do that. And it was kind of a weird thing I found. I don't know why it's doing that on my video card, but it is. But my system's very old at this point, so maybe it'll start drawing this one properly. Who knows? So now we've got that controlled. You can see it's a little, low on the poly count. So what's nice is because it's procedural, I can up and down res it as much as I like. Now you notice I've got some extra form in here. Let's make sure, let's bend this corner out and make this corner look a little bent out. So below the path deform on the plane, I'm just going to go and add a bend modifier. Now you can see where the bend modifier is. That's because the path deform modifier is moving it over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bend, I'm going to bend it up, and looks like it's going to be probably X or Y with a 90 degrees would do it. I'll just leave it in X. But we only want the corner to bend up, one of the corners, and we'll have to figure out which one that is in a minute. But let's get it over to this corner. I think it's probably right by the looks of it. And to do that, I'm going to turn on a limit effect, and I'm going to limit the bend. And I think I'll limit the other way maybe. It might be easier just for the rotation. I'm just going to limit it like that so it bends it from here, from the middle to there. And then I'm going to take the gizmo and I'm going to rotate it. And I'm just going to go and move it over just to the corner here. Turn my path deform back on and take a look what I'm doing. I think it might be the wrong one. Looks like I've got something a little odd going on there. Let's see what happens when I take it over to the others. It might be over on this side that I'm looking for. And you can see it looks like I'm on the other opposite end of it by mistake. So yeah, there we go. So I'm over on the wrong corner of it. It was the other way around when I did the other one, doing things just a little bit differently. So I can now just sort of determine which corner of that is lifting up. And if I want to see it, just turn off my path deform and you can see what I'm trying to lift as far as the corner goes. And move it over, maybe just rotate that up some more. And now you can see I can sort of peel that corner away. Again, all nice and procedural, so I can get it to look like that. Now the other thing I decided to do was go in and add a taper, just to kind of give it a bit of an interesting sort of shape and form to it. So once again, let's see what we're going to do is I'm going to taper it along the length. And so I want to take the taper amount down. I want to take the curve up, okay? And I want the sort of the middles to stick out. Now the center point 2 on the keyboard, I'll move it down to this end, and I should be able to just do this with it. So we can now look at this, and I can push the center in and out. sort of, so it doesn't look like it's rolled up evenly. So I can go ahead and play around with some numbers and, get the kind of look I'm after. Um, and then on top of the stack, you could go and do, for instance, another taper. So above it, and need to make sure that pivot point in the right spot. You can see it's gone over where the original plane was. I'm going to give it some, a little bit of curve. Yeah, just try and make it look maybe a little more cartoony. And there you go. You've got a roll of paper going. It's looks like the center point's got to get moved. Again, you can even have it bent a bit just by moving that center point of the taper will almost allow you to bend it. But you might want to then go and throw a bend on it or something. Bend modifier on it keeps it all completely procedural. This one down here, to get out of this, there you go, and over to this one, all I did was unroll the paper, so I can simply roll it up and unroll it. Now, how did I get it to roll on an angle like this? Well, what I did is I put an X-form modifier on it, and if we look at it now, the whole thing's laying on its side now. So the X-form modifier is just rotating the paper, so it's just rotating it around, and so the axis stays the same. That local axis remains consistent on the object, so it's wrapping it around that y-axis. But I'm rotating the geometry with the X-form modifier. So it looks like it is rolling up at an angle, which is kind of cool. And you can, even if you wanted to rotate the path itself and kind of get a tapering effect happening a little bit on it. So it looks like it's a little wider at one end. But there you go. There's a really, really, really simple way of, playing around with um, uh, the passive form and getting a nice roll of paper going.